development for the Africa region within ICANN. So it gives me pleasure to welcome him and ask him to manage this launch ceremony for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam. My name is Pierre Gangino, the Vice President in charge of Africa actually, and working with ICANN, which is the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. And it's a pleasure for me actually to be here, meeting the James Prof. We were in Addis Ababa, launching a project which is called the Coalition for Digital Africa, and we'll be talking more on that later on. But we are here for specific land. I'm just coming from Cotonou, by road, and then finish answer report. It's okay. Another Deputy Minister for Information. Another Reverend, John, sorry. Oh, education, sorry. Not information, education. Minister for Communication, and Sophia Sakraido. It's a pleasure for us to have this meeting because it's the first time we are doing this under the project I talked about earlier on. It's so important for us to be here and be talking about this project, and also as a proof of what we call collaboration. I can trying to build with a few partners to start this coalition for digital Africa. I can, as I said earlier on, stand for internet cooperation and so okay. Internet, Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. Basically, it's about understanding the way internet works, functions. I'm certain today you've always been on your WhatsApp. I'm certain of that. I'm certain that you certainly all have a domain name. Probably we'll come back on that. Anyway, you are all connected, especially if you are in Africa and you are living in a city like Accra. I'm certain that you are connected to the internet. So what ICANN does is about making sure that this internet works globally, works as kind of is interoperable, and it's all about connecting your kind of when you make your query on the internet that you got AU whatever PH. All of these are non-machine sort of the language. You have to translate those into a machine language so that different people actually understand, and that's why your query can be resolved. So it's quite important to understand that there is some work being done in the background. What ICANN does is also fall in two parts. So you do have this sort of technical part like I just mentioned, which is about making sure that those technical resources really function, that the norms are there, that the root server all this function properly. But the second aspect of it is about the kind of what we call the policy development. Your resources may be there, but you need a certain sort of policies that govern those resources, the way you use them. And it's important that you do this, and the way we do it at ICANN is out of sort of grassroots, is a kind of stakeholder, multi-stakeholder models, which is quite important. What it tells us is that internet is not here for one person to control it or whatever. It's about kind of multi-stakeholder sort of work that is being done. So even in local level, it has to be kind of multi-stakeholder model that really works finally. Well, but we are not here just for ICANN for the internet. We are here for the project we are launching. And to know more about that project, and especially about the Coalition for Digital Africa. We are blessed here to be having our CEO and president of ICANN, who unfortunately cannot be here with us. Of course, it was the plan, Professor, when we discussed in Addis Ababa, the plan was that we do have our CEO, and he himself met you, and he wanted to be here. Of course, now we do have our interim CEO and president. She made sure that she could actually address this audience and make her remarks. So, but she will be doing this remotely. She's ready for it, I think. If technology, follows, then we can just give her time to make her remarks. So, can I hand it over to Sally? Sally Cosseton is our interim CEO and president. And hope we can. Yeah. Hi, Sally, can you hear us? Waiting for the magic to work, but
right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Sally, we can hear you.
Bingo. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I needed to be unmuted. Thank you very much, Pierre, and good morning, everybody.
Please.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person today, but I am so happy to be with you virtually to talk about ICANN and the Coalition for Digital Africa and its partnership with the Association of African Universities. ICANN has had a global mandate since its inception. We serve the global public interest, the 5.3 billion people who are online today, as well as those who are not yet connected. We do that by providing the world with the internet's unique identifiers, particularly the domain name system identifiers that enable internet users to connect with each other. For example, when you type in Coalition for Digital Africa.africa into your browser, we will make sure you end up at the right site. The Coalition for Digital Africa is an ICANN initiative that brings together organizations that can directly impact the expansion of internet access in Africa. It promotes innovation and encourages entrepreneurial efforts aimed at strengthening internet infrastructure to support the development of Africa's digital economy, which is large and growing and estimated currently at a value of $115 billion. But as you know, Africa lags behind the rest of the world in terms of internet penetration at 43% versus the global average of 64%. But in sub-Saharan Africa, penetration has increased tenfold in the last 20 years, and it's one of the fastest growing regions of the world in terms of internet adoption. The growth has been driven largely by young people, with 65% under 35 years old. And as you probably all know, a huge growth in mobile subscriptions, mobile internet access, as well as the number of households that have a computer. And while Africa has made significant strides in recent years, with average download speeds almost doubling between 2015 and 2019, and data costs critically being cut in half, there are still many differences between different African countries with regard to internet access. Just 1% in Eritrea, but 68% in Kenya. The rapid pace of technological development shows us that greater challenges will come in the future years in the pursuit of digital Africa for everyone. And to make sure this can be done, it will require a coordinated and collaborative effort with many partners who are collectively committed to advancing internet access in Africa. ICANN's commitment to the African community dates back to the early 2000s, and we remain strong in our efforts to ensure that the internet continues to expand safely and reliably across the whole continent to bring communities, cultures, and economies together. The current transformation presents a significant and timely opportunity for ICANN's meaningful participation, and the Coalition for Digital Africa is a key driver. As a global organization, we understand the importance of working with local stakeholders and local communities to address their unique challenges. The Coalition is a prime example of this approach, bringing together a very diverse group of organizations. And what they all have in common is they are dedicated to advancing the digital economy and strengthening the infrastructure of the continent. One of the primary objectives of the Coalition is to enhance the stability and security of the domain name system in Africa by strengthening the internet infrastructure itself and providing more security and resiliency. In addition, the Coalition is focused on facilitating meaningful connectivity by promoting multilingualism online and encouraging the development of local content. And we were so excited and grateful and happy to see you, the AAU, your leadership of the Universal Acceptance Day in Ghana a couple of weeks ago, which I'm sure Sarmak will talk about when he talks. Local content is critical to ensure that all Africans can participate fully in the digital world, and it will help to promote cultural diversity and inclusivity. Lastly, the Coalition is committed to developing capacity, so knowledge and skills across the entire continent, to equip Africa's workforce with the skills and knowledge necessary to participate in the multi-stakeholder model of internet governance. By encouraging greater participation from Africa in policy development and management of these unique identifiers, we can ensure that the continent's needs and perspectives are represented in the global internet community. Since the Coalition's launch in Addis Ababa last year, it's made significant progress in its partnership with governments and local stakeholders in several major projects. These include the deployment of an ICANN-managed root server, capacity development for country code top-level domain name registers, DNS security extension roadshows to drive the adoption and validation of DNS security, we call DNS security extension DNSSEC, across the region, and the development of internet exchange points in Africa. These all demonstrate the Coalition's commitment to advancing a digitally empowered Africa for all. And today, we're here to launch our newest project, which is led by the Association of African Universities in collaboration with ICANN to promote universal acceptance, or UA, in academic institutions and make email and other systems in higher education ready for the multilingual internet. UA ensures that all domain names and email addresses, including those that are in scripts other than English and languages, and those that are more than 3 characters long, can be used by all internet-enabled applications, devices, and systems. Universal acceptance will help communities around the world access the internet in their own local languages and scripts. And the ultimate goal of this initiative we're launching today is to increase the number of higher education institutions that are what we call UA ready, able to implement and accept these new domains, and to update their curricula to teach students how to design and develop software applications to be UA ready. And this will create champions for universal acceptance within higher education and research institutions throughout Africa. And we will encourage participation in the Universal Acceptance Steering Group, our global initiatives to drive universal acceptance around the world. As we move forward with this latest initiative by the Coalition for Digital Africa, we must acknowledge that the work ahead will not be easy. It will require a concerted effort from all our stakeholders in Africa to ensure that universal acceptance is implemented effectively and efficiently, as well as comprehensively. The benefits are clear. It will promote greater digital inclusion and drive economic growth across the entire continent. Overall, this project and the others I mentioned reflect the nature of the Coalition, which continues to seek like-minded partners who want to support the development of internet infrastructure to promote the digital transformation of Africa. Partners who join the Coalition commit to fulfilling its mission by collaborating and contributing resources to its activities. As I conclude, I want to emphasize that the internet in Africa is for Africans and by Africans. It's our mission to help and support however we can to ensure that the internet here continues to develop safely and securely. We're committed to working with academia, governments, private sector companies, the technical community, and civil society to develop policies and best practices that will improve the security and stability of the internet in Africa. We're also committed to promoting and supporting capacity development and training to enhance the technical skills of professionals working in this field. In closing, I would like to thank the Association of African Universities for their leadership in promoting universal acceptance and for their partnership with ICANN. I would also like to thank all the members of the Coalition for Digital Africa for their commitment to the digital transformation of the continent. Together, we can build a more inclusive, equitable, and prosperous Africa, where everyone has the opportunity to harness the full potential of the internet. Let us continue together to work towards this goal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sally, for those words. I think they are quite powerful words here to actually push us into this launch of the special project, on universal acceptance. I think your strong words for me could be kind of summarized as sort of needs for capacity development, in Africa. You heavily talk about, the workforce, the skills, it's important. You also mentioned the whole idea of, an inclusive, internet for Africa. And this sort of motto that you are used to, which is internet, for Africa by Africans. I think it's quite important what you said here. Of course, you also spoke on the importance, of having local scripts, or languages, so that you are able to communicate and also make sure that everyone could access internet in his language and be able to access all the resources there, that are up there. And of course, finally, we are so happy as ICANN to be launching this project, in the university, which is all about education, about research, about innovation. And I would really like to thank our host here for having invited, the Minister in charge of communication and digitization, and also Minister in charge of education to be with us here, because this is quite important, areas, and that they have their word to say. I'll be giving them the time for their opening remarks soon, but I would like Professor Olushola Oyewole, the Secretary General of the AU, to make his remarks, and I know he's going to tell us about why he decided to join the coalition, because he was one of the first to join the coalition in Addis Ababa, for our pleasure. So, Professor, thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Communications and Digitalization, represented by Mr. Nana Kofi Asafo-Addo, the Honorable Minister of Education, represented by the Deputy Minister of Education, Honorable Reverend John Intim Fojo, where it's always a pleasure to have you with us. I want to thank you for being available and supporting us all the time. The Vice President of ICANN Stakeholders Engagement for the African region, Mr. Breda Juno. Thank you for coming. I'm glad we met for the first time at Addis Ababa. The ICANN Regional Vice President for Stakeholders Engagement in the Middle East and the Managing Director for the Middle East and Africa Regional Office, Mr. Baha Esmat. Distinguished Vice Chancellors who are here and those who are connected online. I think we have up to how many people connected online now? It is 92 people who are connected online, colleagues and friends from the higher education community, prominent ladies and gentlemen. I will not, but also recognize Mr. Yaovi for all you've done to see to the realization of what you are doing today. All protocols duly observed. I want to welcome all our honorable guests and stakeholders who have been able to attend this event in person and virtually. It's really an honor to host you at the Association of African University Secretariat here in Accra. This association was conceived in Sudan in 1963 and born on 12th November 1967 in Morocco. The first set of members of the AAU consisted of 34 universities from across the continent then. Today, we boast of over 420 member institutions across the 5 regions of Africa. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our vision in AAU is to be the lead advocate for higher education on the continent, with the capacity to provide support for our members to meet their national, continental, and global needs. The Universal Acceptance Project that we are launching today is aligned to our mission of enhancing the quality and relevance of higher education in Africa and strengthening its contribution to Africa's development. Our strategic priorities as the AAU include providing a favorable policy environment, strengthening institutional capacities of stakeholders, promoting harmonization, standardization for competitiveness and collaboration, and mobilizing resources to help sustain our various programs. Honorable Minister, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at the onset, permit me to express my gratitude to the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, ICANN, for the partnership that is seeing us launch the Universal Acceptance Project today. Indeed, as mentioned earlier on, in December 2022, ICANN, AAU, and several partners launched the Coalition for Digital Africa during the Internet Governance Forum themed Connecting All People and Safeguarding Human Rights in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The Coalition for Digital Africa Alliance is of like-minded organizations committed to building a robust and sincere internet infrastructure to bring more Africans online. In line with our partnership with ICANN today, we are launching the Universal Acceptance Project, which is aimed at strengthening the accessibility of internet across the continent, with a specific focus on making email systems and other communication platforms of African higher education institutions ready for universal acceptance and email address internationalization. Honorable Minister, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this project that we are launching today is very key because it is aligned to AU strategic priority of strengthening our various and institutional capacity for our stakeholders to be able to embrace and implement the required changes to their email systems and digital platforms so that Africa can be part of an inclusive internet. Over the years, AAU has championed numerous capacity building programs for the benefit of its member institutions and other African higher education systems. These capacity building programs have been in the areas of leadership development, information and communication technology skills, quality assurance, research skills, e-learning implementation, and other areas identified by the various universities. The Universal Acceptance Project is also linked to our African Research and Education Network, AFREN initiative, which support the development of national research and education networks, INRENs, in various African countries. AFREN also promotes the strengthening of regional research and education networks, RRENS, by promoting continuous learning and collaboration among the 3 RNs, WACREN, UbuntuNet Alliance, and ASTREN. INRENS and RRENS are essential in the implementation of robust internet structure on which email and digital platforms are running. AAU is strategically positioned to use its platforms of 420 vice chancellors and 420 information technology directors that will champion the required changes to achieve universal accepted email systems, websites, and other digital platforms. Honorable ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I would like to end my address by appreciating the ministers present here today. I want to thank you sincerely for coming. I also want to thank the ICANN leadership and this ICANN staff who are present here today, and also the staff of AU who have been working in the past many days to see that today is actualized. Let me also appreciate the vice chancellors that are connected, the vice chancellors that are present, and the various representatives of higher education institutions, those who are connected virtually and those who are present here physically. I will also want to especially appreciate the students and all other stakeholders for your contributions and support to this particular project. This is just the launch of this project. In the many days, months, and probably years ahead, we will be working together. And I hope that we get a system that will help us to communicate together as Africans. I want to thank you for your attention and wish all of us a successful project launch. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Olushola Oyewole, for your words. I think it's important that you said it, that we have this joint project, in Africa, and especially in the research centers and also our universities. So, as I said earlier on, it's quite fundamental for us, to be with the research, because it's all about innovation. It's all about, addressing kind of local issues, and it's quite important also to have the skills that we need, and also important that we do have our two ministers here. So I would like to give them the opportunity for their opening remarks. So for Minister for Communication and Digitalization, I would like to hand over to the representative.
Thank you very much, Pierre. Honorable Minister of Education, represented by the Honorable Reverend John Intimfojo. ICANN Vice President for Global Stakeholder Engagement, Pierre Janjino. AAU Secretary General, Professor Oyewole. Honorable Sani, former board chair of NITA. Honorable Vice Chancellors, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and invited guests, all protocols observed. If you would permit me, I will read the speech on behalf of the Honorable Minister of Communications. I would like to thank the AAU and ICANN for inviting me to be at this launch by the Coalition for Digital Africa. As you all know, education and digital inclusion are dear to my heart. And I'm glad to know you are laying the foundation for better communication systems within Africa's higher education institutions. Over the years, the government has made a long-term commitment to digital inclusion. And this is evident from GIFEC's 281 community ICT centers, over 1,000 rural telephony projects, and about 1,000 schools that have been connected through the school connectivity program. But I also know that laying cables on the ground and putting laptops on desks is only the first part of many steps toward reaching full inclusion. And one of the best ways to add to the hardware is to make the internet more accessible. After all, a person cannot take full advantage of the internet and all it offers if the content, addressing systems, communication modalities all occur in languages and contexts and culture which is totally foreign to them. Therefore, it's very laudable that work is being done in the areas of pushing universal acceptance and email address internationalization, as well as international domain names. The principle of universal acceptance, if adhered to, will lead to a truly multilingual internet, since it will mean that all internet-enabled applications, in particular, in any particular domain name space, will be able to process any domain name or domain name dependent text, including email addresses, regardless of script, length, or how new the email address is. Success in this work will mean that words like Sankofa or Abebrese, which include certain local characters, can now be used in email names and use the full local alphabet, and thus open up a whole new set of email addressing that can be taken advantage of. Over time, organizations which get their systems and services to be UA ready and to work according to these principles and standards will open themselves up to a larger group of customers who can access their goods and services online without necessarily sharing a common language. I believe that advances in artificial intelligence and other fast-paced internet technologies can also synergize with reaching UA and go a long way to make these interlanguage interactions more feasible. For the successful adoption and implementation of these principles in Ghana and Africa at large, it is important that awareness creation be done and appropriate training put in place to ensure that all the necessary systems are configured to the point of being able to process across languages and scripts to bring communication systems up to these multi-language standards. The Ghana Domain Name Registry, which is the entity designated by law to manage the local domain name space, is also doing its work in promoting universal access and promoting the development of local content to take advantage of these inclusion-enhancing principles. I look forward to seeing the results of this work and hope that we can all work together effectively toward a more accessible, inclusive, and better connected internet in Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for those words, and definitely we are all expecting, the deliverables to be as expected in a few years to come. Well, now we would like to hand over to a presentation of Minister for Education, and represented here by, just bear with me, I need to pay attention, by his Honorable Kofi Asafo-Addo, Executive Director. Oh, Deputy Minister, sorry for that, and that's what you get when you give this to a foreigner. Sorry about that. Honorable Reverend Jonathan from JUF. Sorry for that, Deputy Minister. The floor is yours.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, my good friend, Mr. Pierre Danjino. Nana Kofi Asafo-Addo, the Executive Director of Ghana Domain Name Registry, representing the Honorable Minister for Communications, the Secretary General of the Association of African Universities, my good friend, Professor Chief Olusola Bandele Oyewale, the Vice President of ICANN Stakeholder Engagement for Africa region, Mr. Pierre Danjino, Sally Costerton, ICANN Interim CEO, join us virtually. Thanks for your insightful presentation. The ICANN Regional Vice President for Stakeholder Engagement in the Middle East and Managing Director for the Middle East and Africa Regional Office, Baher Esmat, Samad Hussein, who shortly will be delivering a presentation on universal acceptance, distinguished Vice Chancellors, and all those joining us virtually, friends from higher education community and media, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, it gives me a great pleasure to be representing the Minister for Education, Dr. Yao Sedichum, at this important launch of a platform that is going to truly speak to the objectives why the very visionary Association of African University was founded some years ago. Africa as a continent, we're one people with common aspirations, similar opportunities and challenges. And we understand that it is through knowledge, research, and innovation that we can transform the fortunes of our continent. And that is the reason why barriers must be bridged and boundaries must be crossed. And so AAU was set up as an umbrella regional body with over 420 universities and tertiary institutions joining across the continent. We are doing so to ensure that we foster benchmark of best practices, to ensure that access and content to tertiary education and quality are standardized across the continent to offer us that leverage that we can use innovation, knowledge, and research to leapfrog and to take advantage of the many opportunities we have on this continent. And thanks to the visionary leadership of Professor Olushola and the team for the mandate well served. Today, we see another barrier going to be overcome. Africans, we all agree, we are one people. We're just divided by two major barriers. One is boundaries drawn by our colonial masters, and two, language. But we will not allow language and boundaries to divide us anymore, particularly as we have the leverage of technology. Today, technology is serving us well, and it is important that we take full advantage of technology to bridge all these boundaries and ensure that a common platform that will be a catalyst to that information sharing and benchmarking across our institutions is well served. And that is why I'm excited to be here today representing the Honorable Minister for Education at the launch of the AAU ICANN Universal Acceptance Platform. And I commend all the stakeholders, and I thank the Ministry of Communication for their commitment and support. ICANN, AAU, and all stakeholders who have worked tirelessly to make sure that this all-important platform is in place. And today we are going to launch it for its effective utilization hereafter. At the launch of this initiative that aims to strengthen the accessibility of internet across the continent, with a specific focus on making email systems and other communication platforms within Africa's higher education institutions ready for universal acceptance and email address internationalization, a word that I wish I could avoid at any time. This project is very key because it addresses equity aspects of internet access through enabling protocols and principles that promote a multilingual internet. First, I would like to commend the project partners, Association of African Universities, and the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, ICANN, for recognizing the need to focus on building the capacities of our higher institutions of learning to upgrade their websites and email systems so that the information they carry can be accessed in various languages. It is my understanding that universal acceptance is a fundamental requirement for a truly multilingual and digitally inclusive internet. For our case in Ghana and Africa, universal acceptance and email address internationalization will ensure that our email mailbox names can use characters in local languages and scripts. I am glad to note that pertinent measures will be implemented under the AAU ICANN Universal Acceptance Projects to address these, among other key challenges in relation to making internet access more inclusive. Ladies and gentlemen, higher education is at the center of the development debates, and we all recognize that we must improve on access, we must improve on our gross tertiary enrollment ratio, we must improve on the relevance of content and curriculum we deliver, we must improve upon our research at the tertiary institutions. And this has become very topical. Therefore, it is important that our young people, computer science students, IT staff, and related professionals are not left behind in the development of the internet front. Quality higher education has proved to be key in bridging the skill gaps in the African region. Distinguished guests and friends, the government of Ghana is committed to the transformation of our education system at all levels and to improve upon the system we currently have. In pursuit of this, the ministry is pursuing our Ghana Education Transformation Agenda, which is not only targeting reforms, but is targeting transformation of key outcomes within our education system from pre-primary to secondary, tertiary, all the way up. And by this, initiated some key education reforms to transform teaching and learning and improve educational outcomes under the Education Strategic Plan that is spanning from 2018 to 2030. The three main priorities of the education reforms are improved learning outcomes, enhanced accountability and equity at all levels of the education sector. The ministry is also implementing a project for the ICT in education reform. Its overall purpose is to develop the desire and competencies in children to use ICT, equip pre-tertiary learners with ICT skills, infuse ICT into education management, transform teacher development and teacher and tertiary education through technology-based training. The Ghana ICT in education policy encompasses all current ICT initiatives that have been rolled out and future ICT initiatives under a common set of objectives. I would like to congratulate all stakeholders here present and virtually joining us for acknowledging the significance of this launch by making time off their busy schedules to participate and make valuable inputs geared towards the strengthening of systems and platforms of higher education institutions in Africa. In conclusion, dear friends, as AAU and ICANN Universal Acceptance is launched today, I look forward to its effective utilization, and even more importantly, it continues strengthening so that many years to come, we will still have an effective platform that is serving the purpose for which it was invested into, was researched into, and was set up. I wish at this point to sincerely thank ICANN AAU Ministry of Communications, the Vice Chancellors, staff from higher education institutions, and students, all other education stakeholders for your invaluable contributions and support to this project. I thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to enjoying the usage of this platform. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Reverend John Tim, I think, for those powerful words, and especially exposing what is being done and what are your perspectives in terms of transforming the education in this country, and also your word about the looking for the effectiveness of this project we are launching here. And you touched upon so many things that are so relevant to what we are doing here today, and thank you very much for that. I think for that, after that, we are at the end of this first part of the launch, but I'm just being informed that we are still, there is another session that's coming on. So let's wait for them to take their positions. They are going to entertain us. It's also quite important as far as internet is concerned. You heard something we call data. Okay, and the cultural data are quite important. That these are also known as places where Africa is going to really do some marvels here. So this is fully part of the opening ceremony. So Great. You need this? Great. Great. I think that was universal acceptance here. Wonderful. Thanks so much for that. And with that, we are at the end of this part of the lunch. And I would like to thank, our panelists, but our host. Thanks so much for being here. And I think it also gives us some kind of encouragement, towards what we are launching here, because the CDA is a kind of initiative that's going to make some impact in Africa in terms of connectivity in Africa. It's because we do have so many other projects there, dealing with what we call the DNS infrastructure. It's quite important. We'll be talking also about securing what DNS. These are details that we are going to hear later on. So thanks so much for coming to this lunch, and again wishing all of us good meeting today. So ministers, thanks for taking your time to be with us. With that, I shouldn't declare close. I should hand over to Professor because we are at home. You are at your home.
Yeah, with this initiative duly launched, I want to once again appreciate the Minister of Communication and Digitalization, ably represented, and also the Minister of Education, ably represented too by the Deputy Minister of Education. We really appreciate you. And for the Vice Chancellors and other stakeholders who are connected, thank you for being part of this launch. And we look forward to working together with all of us in the days, months, and years ahead. Thank you very much.
The Association of African Universities, in collaboration with the Republic of Namibia and the University of Namibia, cordially invite you to the 22nd edition of the Conference of Rectors, Vice Chancellors and Presidents of African Universities, COREVIP, holding from the 4th to the 7th of July 2023 in Windhoek, Namibia. This year's COREVIP will convene Chief Executive Officers of higher education institutions in Africa